Welcome to the 1000-Watt Brand and Marketing Podcast, where 1000-watt principals, staff, and occasional guests dive inside strategies and tactics that some of the world's greatest brands, both inside and outside of real estate, use to win big. Our aim is to strike new ways of thinking that will help brands position and market their products and services more sharply. Let's get started.
You know, the question that I had asked, if I remember what I wrote, was like, why do people even care about logos?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about a brand logo that when you see it, it somehow anchors or doesn't anchor itself, but you're drawn to it in ways in which are very personal. And then when a brand decides to change its logo because it's entitled to do that, people get really offended by that and they get upset and they feel like the rug's been pulled out from under them. I believe I know the answer to that. I think a brand logo is not a logo in the way our brain processes it. It's a symbol. We
It's a story.
It's a
Sometimes
story.
it's a story, right? It's a story we tell about ourselves.
Exactly.
When you think about, I was reminded of this last night because my kids and I were watching a show that set in the 80s, and one of the plot lines was about the store Benetton, which was huge when I was in high school, right? And it brought back all these memories. I was like, oh yeah, like I was part of that, like, love for that brand. It sort of started to mean something to us as teenagers. And, you were cool if you had a Benetton sweatshirt, but it had to have the symbol on it. It had to have the logo, otherwise it like didn't count. Um, if no one knew it was Benetton. I even had earrings that were like, the little symbols of Benetton. And my kids were just like, but it's an ugly logo. I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't about that. It was about what it meant to have it. It was like an identity thing.
Yeah, like if you're into Lacoste, would you wear the Lacoste golf shirt if it didn't have the alligator on it?
Yeah, probably not.
A few months back, Lori and I went hiking here in Arizona, in a canyon where if you go far enough and deep enough into the canyon, there are petroglyphs on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
You get out there, and to your point about story, you see all of these symbols, and they are man's earliest way of communicating and telling story, even before we had words. I think that symbols connect. It creates a connection in our brain that is just how human beings are wired. We understand symbols. Symbols mean something to us. Look at our religions. Every religion has a symbol.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what the Star of David, what is that? King David didn't wear that on a gold chain. I mean,
Right. But it became symbolic at some point.
Symbolic, or like a cross for Christianity. I mean, it's weird, but like they matter. And so people, because it matters, without rhyme or reason, people identify with it. So when a brand like Jaguar decides it, because it has every right to change its logo, people get so upset, but they get so upset that they don't even understand the strategy behind why Jaguar did that.
Yeah.
I think the interesting and more salient component for us to chat about and our audience to listen to is, we often talk about in work the job of a logo. That's the terminology, is what is the job of the logo? It's to represent something that the brand is about, but it needs to be designed in a way because I think that's a critical component too. The way something is designed will either make it a symbol worth caring about or not. And this has always been like my issue with the very trendy monogram
Hmm.
symbol in real estate. So Jessica Swesey has a real estate practice and she's going to be the JS logo.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the MD logo. Yes, it identifies us, but it's so personal. Like how I think it fails to do the job a logo is supposed to actually do.
Doesn't tell a story. I mean, I think it does the job in terms of like in today's day and age, every logo needs a short form because of the way, our it needs to exist in smaller pixels, a smaller space.
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand how it fulfills that need. But you're right, like it fails to tell a story. It's just someone's initials,
And how can
which is like,
I can't create a personal relationship with JS any more than I can with JB if JB were the symbol for the Jeff Bezos book company.
right, yeah,
Like and so if you're trying to build a brand, which everybody's trying to do, it's become the thing. Well, why not? Like brands are more valuable than just a
hmm,
nondescript company. But if you're trying to build a brand, some kind of an entity that people can take possession of, that identity. So, okay, you can have an initial identity, but does it have to be like so on the nose JS or MD? Can it be designed to actually embody whatever that construct is of a symbol that make it more or make it less JS and more of a symbol I can relate to?
yeah. Can it be more image based versus letters, maybe?
I think it's worth so you had asked me before we started recording about Jaguar. I think, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I think Jaguar made a very conscious decision to go, no one cared about us. Sure, we have all
Hmm.
this legacy, but we really live in a world where legacy doesn't matter. Look at America. We tear down anything that is old. Anything that's old has no value.
Yeah,
As opposed to Europe, where you go to Europe and like old is prized, old churches, old buildings, old cobblestone streets. Here in this country, we really just don't have. So I find it ironic that everybody is like yapping on about, oh, the legacy, the legacy. Meanwhile, no one cares about legacy. We all want
yeah.
the newest, latest thing. But
Nothing's made to last. That's why it feels like everything has a shelf life kind of baked into it in modern life. So legacy then becomes difficult.
so if it's not even what you're going after, and you realize, so you're Jaguar, and you go, look, people aren't buying our cars. I think Jaguar sold 25,000 cars worldwide in 2024.
Well,
I mean, that's just it's a crappy number. It's like if you sold two homes in 2022. Clearly, no one's interested in your services. Uh, so it made a decision to like, we're going to completely destroy everything and build a new identity, a new company, a new car, a whole new thing. We're going to do what everybody's attracted to, be new, and remove any vestige of, just going, I looked at that Jaguar logo. You look at it long enough, it's not really that good.
mm-mm. I don't think it's good either. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Not to like, not to dump on the work or anything. I just think it doesn't exude strength. It feels flimsy to me, which is not something that you would want to associate with a car.
unless it's a flimsy car, which Jaguars were,
Yeah.
or crappy cars. It on the surface, you go, well, Jaguar, was associated to luxury in our minds, because if you were a wealthy Brit, you weren't
Hmm.
driving a Jag. Maybe you had one of those like XK, sports cars in the garage.
Yeah,
And if you're a wealthy American, is there a Jaguar in your garage? I don't think so.
probably not.
Um, so the logo was tied to just some yeah, it's like Braniff. They don't exist anymore. I look at the logo, it strikes a certain emotional chord with me, but like who cares? They're gone. It's over.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Now, whether the current new look is good or not, all right, this is an interesting thing. How, when you design something like a logo, I really can't think of many logos that I could look at and go, wow, that is a beautiful logo.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of one.
Yeah, it's not like artwork. It's, I think
No,
most really good logos are actually kind of boring when you pick them apart visually. It's like, it's just a strong word mark that can withstand a lot of different design situations and look good on the side of a building or, equally good on a t-shirt as on a website.
it's constructed, it's mathematically constructed to look finished and polished.
Hmm.
It's fit and finished. You know who's got a beautiful logo? It's uh, a body, like a body wash soap oil company out of
Hmm.
Hawaii called Mali, I think it's Maile or Malie. We have products because every time I go to Hawaii, like their products encapsulate the smell of Hawaii, so I buy them. They have a stunningly beautiful logo. Uh, I can grab a product while we're talking and I'll show you their logo. But like most logos, they become great because they represent great companies.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think the science of that, it's psychological science. We now associate that Jaguar logo to a shitty company, hence it's a shitty logo. Look at that logo. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, that
That's
is
pretty.
that is pretty. Um, so that's what a designer is thinking about. Like the logo, people people love the logo because they love the product. I mean, an
Hmm.
apple logo is an apple with the bite taken out of it. Uh, on the surface, there's nothing about that should be memorable or
Right.
product, except that it represents something people love.
Yeah. I think there was a fair amount of writing about just what you're saying when Jaguar launched this or revealed this new logo. It's like, okay, what about the product though? Like they also revealed this concept car, but it's like the problem is, and probably what got them where they ended up um, prior to this rebrand is the product no longer worked in the current world. People weren't looking to spend money simply on luxury. They needed that luxury to do something for them or to last, or to, like a Tesla, like give them a foot in modern life, right? An electronic vehicle that's going to take you out of fossil fuels. Like the problem with Jaguar was the product, not the brand. So it's like I understand why the brand story has to change, but it's like the product has to change along with that. And so I guess we all will find out, right, in the coming years, like, is the product going to make that big leap in the same way that the brand did?
I kind of hope it does because I'd love to own an electric car, but not a Tesla. I have no desire to have any
Hmm.
participation with that brand whatsoever. Um, not because I don't even like the spokesperson for the brand. Um, it's just too trendy. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not
They
drawn
all
to
look the same, honestly. I mean, there's
it.
dozens of them in my neighborhood and they're all the same.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, oh, me too. I got one just like you, like having my
Yeah.
own unique thing. But yeah, everybody trashing that rebrand. I bet you not a single one of them had a plan to ever buy a Jaguar.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think the internet is filled with commentators and influencers and people with a lot of opinions that don't know shit from Shinola about like the science and the work and like why things are done. Uh, and I do think that that kind of permeates our consciousness and shapes our understandings and opinions about our own
Yeah.
work, you know. And and yet, like God, over the last 10 years, so many brands have evolved their identities and
Hmm.
evolved their word marks. Because back to that notion of like these things are brand assets. We like to refer to them as they're just employees of your company.
Yeah.
Uh, love them for the job they do and fire them for the jobs they're no longer able to do. I think a lot of what often doesn't get expressed is as employees, your word marks, your identities, and all the other elements that you're building brand with have to be out there in their workhorses. They have to be out into the world communicating, telling, like you said, story. And sometimes audiences grow a little bit tired of the story it's telling. Uh,
Yeah.
or new audiences emerge that are attracted to a new way stories are told. And brands have had to. Uh, it's expensive, especially in real estate. You got to change signage. You got marquee signs if you're a broker. You got buildings that have your signs on it. I
Yeah.
think one of the issues in real estate were why so many real estate brands just look old because the cost to modernize,
Yeah. Never quite pencils out.
it doesn't
Because
pencil out.
you can't do like a clean ROI on a rebrand.
No.
Um, you'll feel the impact, I think, just in our experience working with rebrands over several years. We've heard anecdotal evidence, like we're getting a lot more inquiries now from agents and um, people are responding very well to the new brand, but you can't necessarily like quantify that easily. So it's pretty easy to like look at the math and be like, yeah, this is not going to be worth sinking several $100,000 into this year.
It's an interesting, you're right. But like, I find that that is only one side of the ledger
Hmm.
because you also have to think about what is the cost of looking old?
Hmm.
What does that cost us? Like
Yeah.
every agent you don't recruit because they just can't see themselves having your marks on there as an ingredient to their brand. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a cost to that.
There is a cost. Yeah. It's true. And it carries with it the baggage of the old story also, you know. And we're in an industry that, it's not just real estate. I think it's just people in general. Like we have shiny object syndrome. And anytime there's a shiny object in the room or in the industry, it's going to just naturally attract attention. So, if
Mm,
you're stuck in that legacy seat, and we've worked with the oldest brokerages in
yeah.
the country. Like I think the top two or three oldest brokerages we have worked with. And it's such a quandary, right? It's that it you hear the same story, right? It's like, well, we have so much that we have built over 100 years, in our company, so much knowledge. Our leadership have served on all of the realtor boards, they're well versed in ethics. We train our agents to be the absolute best, and when things go awry, they have all kinds of resources to help. Um, we're the gold standard, really. But, new shiny object came into town and started eating our lunch and taking all of our agents because they have this hot new office downtown where they throw parties on Saturday, that kind of thing. And, meanwhile, under the surface of that, a lot of times is like, well, they're not really they're not supporting their agents very well. They're falling down on transactions. We always have to clean up their mess.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's how can the legacy brand adopt some of that shiny object syndrome? Refresh. It's a rebrand, a refresh, a revolution, or an evolution of your brand is a moment that allows you to attract attention, tell a new story, or even revive your old story, and make it more relevant to people and just make it more noticeable, because it's kind of like when you look in your closet and you're like, you may have this fabulous wool sweater that spent $600 on 10 years ago, and it's been in your closet ever since. It's like, it's an amazing sweater, but what's going to catch your eye when you open your closet? The one you just got last week. It's just the way it is. And even if that one is of lower quality, your eye just naturally is going to go to the new thing.
It's worth unpacking this because I think a lot of, because this has been our experience. So these older brands that come to us with that problem, and they need to retell. So when we use the term like brand identity, we don't only mean visual identity. The brand identity is the whole entire way the brand shows up. So it is
Yeah.
story.
Personality, the story. Yeah. The verbal identity is what I call it too.
So most of these, it just turns out this way. These clients, they roll out their new logo, but they don't really roll out the story behind the logo. And
Right.
you don't, what people don't quite get is like colors, typefaces, all of these things exist already in the world. There's nothing new about color. There's nothing new about typefaces. There's nothing new about any identity, really. I mean, I'm proud of all the work that we do, but we're working with what already exists. We're not inventing typefaces. We're not
Right. Yeah.
inventing colors. So like, if the story behind, if the story of the brand, so you talk about this brand that's got all of this, we're the gold standard. Yeah, except nobody knows that because you've not
Yeah.
really done a very good job in the same way that every time I think about a good comparison, I always end up with product brands. Now, the
Hmm.
advantage they have is they have a product. So you can buy their product and have it in your house. Like this lamp, I can touch it, I can feel it. I press a button, it turns on and off, so I can develop a closer relationship to it. When you're a brokerage or a title company or an MLS or a technology, like you can only get so close to somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to weigh heavy on the identity, but you really got to also weigh heavy on like, how do you tell your story? How do you
Hmm.
make me know that you're the gold standard? How do you make me know that the 100 years that you've been around should really matter to me? I
Yes. Yeah.
think where the rubber meets the road for most of the people in our industry who don't have a tangible product, um, more so than identity, because I think you can, I kind of waxed on a little bit around the Kai's rebrand, which we did
Hmm.
not. We did the illustrated, but we didn't do Kai's. I think that work is gorgeous, and I think that work looks like it was designed 70 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah. It
and
was well done.
so well done. But it like paid homage to its legacy. So
Hmm.
like in a world of shiny and new will only last so long until the next shiny
The
thing
next
comes
thing.
along,
Yes. Yeah.
right? But that shiny new outfit in your closet, if it doesn't have the thread count, if it doesn't have the quality manufacturing, if it does not have what that wool sweater had, there's a reason why that wool sweater
Gets thrown out. It gets thrown out.
gets
Yeah.
thrown out.
It's disposable.
You can't just have logo. So back to the Jaguar, whatever the logo, it looks like this. It looks like it could be this, it could be that. Yeah, exactly. It looks like it could be anything. It's an empty vessel.
Mhm.
It's what is a car logo?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what a car logo is. Look at the Toyota, Honda, Mazda. They all look alike. They're
Hmm.
they're all shitty and they're all identical. And nobody's wearing those things on their t-shirts or hats, except if you work for the brands. They mean nothing really, other than they represent a good car. So if you
People are
like,
buying the cars though.
yeah. So like if the Jag comes out with like a killer car, if that car is amazing, that logo is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. The car makes the logo. Yeah.
Just I kind of I correlated to a world I know really well, which is, the music world.
Hmm.
I think about band names, that if that band name were not assigned, if like the band behind the name were crappy, the name would really be stupid.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the Police. On the surface,
Yeah.
it's a dumb name.
It's a dumb name.
Who wants to be into the Police? Uh, Everybody who was into the Police is
It's
like,
like not cool at all. Yeah.
yeah, not cool. But the Police was so good. It made the name good. It made the logo good.
Yeah. Same with the Beatles. I mean, it's kind of it's a silly name, really.
I know if you say it long enough, say it many times over and over again, it really feels like a child's cartoon makeup name, made up name.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and on the same note, like remember the Monkeys? What a dumb name, but
Hmm.
that logo was insane. How great that
Yeah. The
was,
logo is good.
and the music was great. So I think like the point of this is if you're actually trying to build a brand, not just call yourself a brand because it feels good and then you move on, but you're actually trying to build one and you're taking that seriously because you understand that there is inherent, tangible, yeah, it may not be like I can't count the ROI the way I would normally would on like some like direct response, 10% off of this product,
Hmm.
market. But if you take your brand seriously and you understand there's inherent value in something, you need to look at logo and story and service all together as one whole thing. It's a holistic reality.
Yes.
Um, if you have an acronym, if your logo is JS, but you are the most amazing, not only the most amazing real estate agent, which by the way, like that's expected. I expect you to be that.
Yeah.
You are doing things in the community that everybody's talking about. And it's because of you, things are thriving or things are being built. That JS all of a sudden becomes a damn good logo.
Hmm.
But on its own, if you're just another real estate agent with another monogram, with a nice website, like all of these things have to be working together to become powerful together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the rub. It's like we talk about this a lot because we often have foundational engagements, right? Where we're setting the foundation of a brand or setting it on a new path forward, but I always try to hit home the fact that like this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Like you need to take this work and a brand story is something you tell every single day,
Yeah.
of the brand's life. And sure, it's going to evolve and be more polished tomorrow than it was yesterday, and maybe even veer into new corners. Um, but like, you can't just put up a website and say that's our brand story. Like the story is it's not even something that you can necessarily capture. It's like it's the ongoing conversation. It's the ongoing feeling that's out in the marketplace about you. So. some of that you can control, some of it you can't, but at least being aware of it and having a strategy and putting action to it. It's the same with marketing. Like, you can't put together a marketing plan and then just let it sit there. You have to action against it every single day. So building a brand is the same way. Like, you have to action against it every day in order to shape it the way you want it to be shaped.
I think that's the challenge. I think people don't know how to action it, but
Hmm.
it's okay to not.
Yeah.
Like,
Nobody knows.
nobody knows. That is so, like, once you get, it's kind of like, you ever have like your fortune told, or your tarot read, or like,
Yeah, I have.
I mean, I have too, and I have found that, like, after having that done, sometime down the road, like, that actually happens. And I don't think that they've actually foretold the future. I think they planted a reality in your head, and then
Hmm.
you manifested that. So,
Yeah.
like, so let me ask you the question. So, putting you on the spot, but, like, think about a slogan for a second. What a slogan is, we talk about brand story, and there's all kinds of things that are brand story. There's the about us, the long form story, a brand promise, the promise you make, it's part of your story. A mantra, like those 3 or 4 words, 2 words, whatever it is, it's a short little pithy statement that I believe is, like, maybe the most authentic human uh, bit of communication your brand can offer, is
Hmm.
just a mantra. Uh, and we think about a mantra could be a slogan, it's a tagline, it's a statement the brand makes, it's a
Yeah.
power headline that, like, it doesn't live in a lockup anywhere, but it's a statement. It's a very powerful one. And I want to see if, like, can you recall one that you've come up with in the last year or two? Because I want to see if we can maybe put it to a test and come up with, like, a few things that you could do with it that would be like, you have to take action around it and make it real.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I know there's the one that we've chosen for ourselves years ago that we continue to activate and deactivate, but, like, what's one you've come up with in the last, or most recently, that you think was a really good, well, they're all good, but, like, one that is hitting your head immediately?
Um, well, we're working with a company right now, Breakthrough Broker, right? Or Breakthrough, where we came up with make growth happen. Um, because it's sort of this testament to the action that is necessary to grow a business. And it's not just marketing either. They're in this category of marketing platforms. Um, but they have this education component, this business building strategy component, that's really all about growing. And it's underlying it is the philosophy, or really the truth, that, like, you can't grow unless you make that growth happen, right?
Mm.
Unless you're doing something. So it's a slight twist on, like, grow your business, which a lot of companies in the real estate tech space kind of use that phrasing. It's slightly different, but I think it's grounding for this particular company, because they really were rooted in this, like, this origin of, well, we wanted to build something that made it easy for real estate agents to take action every day. They're told they need to do X, Y, and Z all the time, but then they're kind of left on their own to figure out how to do it. So, like, we're here to help them make that happen, make it possible.
Okay, now let's put it to the test. Make growth happen is now the brand's mantra. You can put that on a website and live
Hmm.
It's a headline. But like, to your point about the story continues on, what does that mantra, which is like really a company rally cry, not just to the world outside, but it also should be a rally cry to itself.
Yeah.
What, like, how would that instruct the company, the brand, to continue that, telling that story over and over again? Like a low-hanging fruit idea is like, you start a Facebook community called Make Growth Happen, or you create a blog series called, or an interview series, and you're interviewing, you know,
Hmm.
people who are these are ideas that, I'm not saying any one of these are any good, but like they need to keep developing product and keep putting new product out there and tagging it
Yeah.
back to that. We just released this thing because we're making growth happen. Like that's what you mean,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
continually telling the story.
Yeah. Continually telling the story, finding little moments, I think, where you can make the connection very obvious without overdoing it, you know? Um, because sometimes it just becomes about the sentiment too. Like if you think about one of the most famous examples, like Nike's just do it, like they don't always use that tagline, but the sentiment is always there. Um, that that idea of like empowering individuals to be athletic in their everyday lives, it's always there in everything that this brand does. So, for this example, Make Growth Happen, this company can just take that notion of like empowering individuals to, be able to take action towards their own destiny kind of thing, their own point of growth that they're reaching towards. That can be the sentiment underlying everything. So like they could even do, start to get, say they grow a lot and they start amassing a lot more like customer success stories. Some of those success stories could just be less about, numbers, bullet points, and actions, and more about like just the story of a person, like, maybe they came to real estate from really hard times and they literally were starting at zero and now they're like a millionaire, and sort of like showing that story of how they made it happen. And it doesn't even necessarily have to connect to this platform that they used and logged into every day. It's a story of growth and how they did this thing for themselves that was really empowering.
As we talk about it, and I'm sure your mind is firing, and we're going to likely give this particular client a document filled with ideas. There's a lot of ideas. You just have to pick one.
Hmm.
This happens so often. You deliver like a slogan and it just sits on a business card. And that's where it lives and dies, on a business card that no one looks at.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like such wasted opportunity to go through the motions of working on this thing called your brand, designing a nice logo for it, but then not activating it. That's a term we use a lot internally, activation. Um, I don't think it's an agency term. I think it's a term people really need to kind of inherit and understand is you have a business. Your business is to sell products and services, make money, hire people, pay them well, create a nice culture, uh, so that you have a good business. If you're
Hmm.
creating something called brand, that's another layer. Uh,
Yeah.
and boy, if you don't attend to it, then it's not a brand. It's the ingredients of a brand. You have a logo that's sitting over here. You have a tagline sitting over here. You have some nice copy sitting over here on a page. But if they're not activated and are out in the world, activated, doing things, working, um,
They're not doing their job.
No.
or
And
falling
so
down on the job.
go back to the Jaguar thing. The reason why nobody likes what they see is because it's kind of like a body without a soul yet.
Yeah, there's no insides. Yeah.
There's no inside. It's just a mark with nothing. It's a new word mark with nothing. It has no story. It has no success story. It has nothing.
Yeah.
Which does beg the question, what really people
Why
should be,
did they launch it so fast? Like maybe they should have waited a
that's
year.
the question. So being that you and I are strategists, let's just talk it out. If we were inside of Jaguar, why would we do this? Because that's the one thing that doesn't make sense to me. Why put these sort of like uh it's like an AI robot. It's not human. It has nothing inside of it.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I would, if I had to guess, it probably had to do with, shareholder pressures coming down from different angles. Like they kind of had to show some sort of action. Um, Again, I don't know. I'm not a business analyst, but it just seems like the company's been struggling. If you look at the numbers, you said they sold only 25,000 cars worldwide. That means there's pressure happening from the top and from shareholders. So they
Ford,
had to show something. In an ideal world, they probably should have waited. But we don't live in an ideal world. So
no. But I'm thinking if you and I were part of the brand strategy team, because clients ask us all the time, well, should we launch this in parts or should we? Because
yeah,
we just got our new logo done. We know we've worked with some clients that are like rushing to launch without
yeah,
getting all
totally.
the brand shit done yet. I
Because they have
want
other things depending on it. Yeah.
if we're sitting around the table and we go, look, we think you guys should launch this now. Uh, regardless of the fact that there's no product yet. What would be our reason? Beyond, and I think you're right about the shareholder thing. Um, I think what I would say is, all right, look, we're stopping production. There's no more Jaguars.
Mhm.
That car is done. The assembly line, the plant is done. Um, but we don't want the world to think we're dead. We want the world to still think about us and wonder about us because we have a plan, and I don't think it's going to be yours. If we could make a big enough, almost an obnoxious launch to where people are commenting on it, because advertising is good,
Yeah.
no matter whether it's good advertising or bad advertising.
Yeah. Just people are talking about it. Yeah.
I think our pitch should be, hey, listen, Jaguar guys, go live with the identity and come up with the most obnoxious uh, color burst of crazy advertising and just get people talking.
Yeah.
And what they're going to be saying essentially is what we want the world to know is that Jaguar that you say you love but would never buy, we're done. It's over. And something
Yeah.
is coming. And I think
Something is coming.
anticipation is
Yeah.
a powerful thing. I think,
They probably did it on purpose then, now that you're saying that.
yeah, I mean, that would be because I
Just to
think
create because I think there's power in that too, in the coming soon at, sort of category of announcing things, um, building, like you said, like no one was talking about Jaguar like 3 months ago or however long it's been. Um, Now you say that and like almost everyone's heard the news, seen the new logo, probably has a flippant opinion about it, like it's stupid or whatever. But at least like it's like Jaguar's back in the collective consciousness. Good or bad, it's there.
uh, and I think so. I think if I were leading the strategy, I would say to Jaguar, go live, but just make sure of one thing. And that is that when that first car comes out, it better be good.
It better be good. Yeah.
Like when it lands, people have to go, oh shit. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll
But like
see.
trashing the work, I guess it's yeah, I get it. We all like get fixated and fall in love with symbols. It's a powerful thing to understand, the power of symbols. And I think for anybody listening to this, if you have a logo or making a logo or thinking about getting a logo, you really should think about that short form, long form. They are symbols that will either connect with people or they won't. And if they don't, then you may like it.
Hmm.
But what are you liking? You're liking a thing that no one cares about.
Yeah.
It's like not the way to think about it.
All right. So we should wrap this up. And
Okay.
I think for continued reading and diving into this topic, I would send people to your blog post called Brand Heartache When Logo Changes Break Hearts, where you break this down um, a little bit further.
Tired of all the noise around marketing tactics, AI, social media, and brand building today? Find a clear signal at the 1000-Watt Brand and Marketing Summit, April 8th and 9th in Dallas. Experience 2 days filled with wild ideas, energizing connections, and strategies you can implement right away. Visit 1000watt.net/summit to learn more and sign up. We'd love to see you there.